Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pop That Mumma podcast. In this episode, I have a very special guest, someone who I admire from Instagram, and I'm sure you'll know her, Caitlin Wilder, who is a mother of two, a doula, and someone who cares deeply about postpartum. We're going to be sharing our stories of postpartum as we're both mums of two. And so we want to share exactly what happened, but most importantly, the lessons and insights that we have for you that will hopefully help you on your journey.
One of the biggest purchases you're going to make in pregnancy is a buggy. It can feel really overwhelming with all of the choices out there. I've been there as a first-time mum being like, which buggy should I actually choose? That's where Bugaboo comes in. Parents around the world are obsessed with their innovative, family-friendly products. And you know what, guys? So am I. I'm actually really excited to have Bugaboo as our sponsor because I am the biggest Bugaboo fan ever. Like, I literally recommend them to everyone who will listen. Everything is designed to be long-lasting, comfortable, and easy to use. I went with Bugaboo with both of my girls, and honestly, it was the best decision. If you didn't know already, I'm going to be needing a double buggy soon. I couldn't be more excited about having another little one. And luckily, I'm not going to have to stress about what pushchair to get because I know what I'm getting, the Bugaboo Donkey 5. It's the incredible buggy for growing families, or if you just need extra storage. So the brilliant thing about it is it switches from a single to a double so easily with just a few clicks. And I love that the little ones are next to each other because they can see each other and actually experience the world together. So cute. Even though it's a double buggy, it's still really easy to steer and compact, fitting through a standard doorway or a lift. So now that the buggy's sorted, I'm going to be focusing all of my time on birth prep and enjoying these last few months as a family of four. If you're in the market for a pushchair, use the link in the show notes or visit the Bugaboo website to find out more. Their whole range is designed with parents and growing families in mind.
Caitlin.
Hi.
So good to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Let's hear a bit about yourself for the people who don't already know you.
Sure. So my name is Caitlin Wilder. I am a mom times two living in Los Angeles. I am a full spectrum doula and a CLC, a certified lactation counselor. And I have a very fun and a little bit unhinged, but in a fun way, Instagram community at Wilder Beginnings, where I talk all about being a mom, new mom tips, all of that.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying doing a deep dive into your Instagram account. And there was one reel that I thought we could start off. Really, I thought it was a really, really good way of thinking. But you were talking about how in postpartum, you need to take it moment to moment and not think about the big picture.
Yeah, so that was kind of something I figured out in my second postpartum. Anytime I felt like there was something going on that needed to be fixed, I was like, okay, this is a huge situation that's going to need a huge global response, basically, when instead I realized I just need to be focusing on improving that exact moment and taking it moment by moment and saying, okay, my baby woke up from her nap at 28 minutes to the dot, because there is something about cat nappers, which is you could time that nap like down to the second. So thinking she needs to sleep longer, instead of spiraling into, oh my gosh, how do I get her out of cat napping forever? It's, okay, I'm going to go sit in a dark room to help extend her nap. How am I going to improve this moment? What am I going to do to make this moment more enjoyable? With my first postpartum, the rage texts I would send my husband trapped in that dark room, like, I'm having to hold this baby for a nap again. I'm stuck in this dark room, like miserable. Instead, second time around, I thought, how nice that I get to sit in a dark room in the quiet. I'm going to make this a wonderful experience for myself. I got a Kindle so I could start reading. I would listen to funny podcasts that made me feel happy. It was all about just improving that specific moment I was in instead of like doom spiraling, basically.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. And tell us a little bit more about your first postpartum then and what happened.
Yeah, well, it wasn't great. That's what I'll say. I did not have any diagnosed postpartum depression or anxiety or OCD. However, I was very anxious, and I really was having a very hard time with feeling like I was doing everything wrong, that there were certain things I was supposed to be doing. You know, you kind of fall into the Instagram algorithm of sleep trainers and people who have their babies on schedules and people whose babies are sleeping through the night at like 5 weeks and napping for hours and hours, and their lives just look so great. And I was like, I feel like I've been hit by a truck. My baby doesn't seem like he likes me that much. He's not somebody who seems to need sleep to exist. Breastfeeding was very difficult. And I wasn't seeing anything that mirrored my own personal experience. I felt like I was really focusing on what my baby, quote unquote, should be doing or what my experience should be like versus what it actually was like. I didn't feel like I was allowed to trust myself, like I was allowed to do what felt right to me or what I wanted to do. I'm not somebody who chose to sleep train. I'm somebody who's more of a responsive parent in the middle of the night. I loved doing contact naps, but I felt like I was going to get in trouble. Like I say all the time, I literally felt like this sleep trainer was going to knock on my door at my house and be like, Caitlin, I know you did a contact nap today. Like you're doing it wrong. You're failing. And it sounds so crazy, but when you're in that moment, it feels so real. And I was lucky enough to then have another baby. And the whole time I just was telling myself, I get to do it differently this time. Nobody else is an expert of my baby except for me. My baby chose me not because they thought I would be the best at obsessing over their schedule or doing what I thought I should be doing, but because they know I'm going to be the best mom for them. And so when I had my baby, the second one, I did everything so differently. I did exactly what I wanted to do. I didn't care about what anybody else had to say. It was the most amazing and wonderful experience. And I didn't realize until I was in this second postpartum how difficult that first one was. I also felt like if I didn't have a diagnosed postpartum depression or anxiety, I couldn't say that it was a tough experience. I kind of felt like it was very black and white. It was either you loved it or you had something that you actually needed help with, when really I think a lot of new moms are in that kind of middle ground of there's nothing major going on, but it's just not that great of a time. And that was really where I was. And I leaned into that the second time. I wasn't expecting it to be rainbows and butterflies and magical and beautiful. I expected it to be hard. I expected to not love it. And because of that, I ended up loving it.
I resonate so much with this. And I keep thinking about matrescence. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much you know about this, but for me, I felt like I wasn't prepared at all for that postpartum. I was just like, who am I? Yeah. Massive identity crisis. Had no idea about co-sleeping and thought I need to put her in the cot. And obviously she screamed her head off and was a very kind of screaming type of baby. So in the end, I ended up just putting earplugs in because it was the only way I could calm myself down and not be like, this is like, because it has a physiological effect on you.
Totally.
Which is just indescribable, especially your own baby crying.
Oh, yeah.
And I personally just tried to kind of bounce back to my usual self as quick as possible. And actually, that just made everything so much more harder because I was feeling like a shell of myself inside. But outside, I looked fine because I had a full face of makeup.
Yeah.
Was acting like, hey, guys, everything's great. Come over. Hosted. Tom's parents came round. We had everyone around that first couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And I, like yourself, the second time, just did it so differently, said no visitors. I co-slept. I fully just trusted myself and it felt so calm.
Yeah.
And joyous. And, you hear about like blissful postpartum and sadly not that many women experience it that way. But for me, the second time experienced it as blissful, which is crazy. I still had nipple pain and all the, lack of sleep, all of that stuff. But the whole kind of experience of just being still with the baby, bonding and really getting in tune was amazing.
Yeah. You know what I say too to people, when you see somebody who has a baby and then they immediately are trying to get back to their quote unquote old selves and they're going out a lot and they're dressing up and all of that, I feel like that's almost a cry for help from that person. That person is not letting themselves feel what is actually going on and what they are really experiencing. And they need someone, instead of saying, wow, it's so amazing you're out of the house, you had a baby. They need somebody to kind of pull them aside and say, hey, it's okay for you to be at home with the baby right now. You don't need to be out and about in the world. You don't need to be bouncing back. Like, sit your butt on that couch, let the couch mold around your body, find a good show to watch, and like relax.
Yeah. Oh my God. I saw mum yesterday at soft play, and this baby must have been honestly like 2 weeks max. It was so small. And she looked quite done up and everything. And I just wanted to hold her and take her back to bed and be like, please,
Exactly.
just rest. Just, let yourself have this time. Because I think, looking after yourself postpartum is the ultimate act of self-care, but also for your baby. Because I don't know about you, but with my first, I found it very difficult to calm her down. And I now know, having experienced the second postpartum, that we weren't in a state of co-regulation. Whereas with Olivia, it was like I was just completely present with her. She'd make noises, I'd start to respond and start to figure out what she wants, and then we'd lie down on the sofa breastfeeding, and I'd feel calm when she was calm. And still to this day now, we are able to really help regulate each other, and it's like we're in sync in a way that I just wasn't with my first, and I put that down to the postpartum 1,000,000%.
You know what, that's such a great point, and I think I was the exact same way with my son too, and it was because I let other people's voices get in my head. I wanted to respond to my son right away, but I had in the back of my head, oh, that sleep trainer said you're supposed to do like a 30-step acronym before you actually pick up your baby and feed your baby. You're supposed to first turn on the sound machine and then watch them for 5 minutes and then and all of that, when both he and I just needed and wanted each other. But I had so many people telling me that I should be doing something differently that I missed out on that. And just like you with the second, I didn't think about that for a second at all. The second she made noise, I picked her up. I was holding her. If somebody said, oh, you're creating a bad habit. I mean, is that not the dumbest thing you've ever heard?
It's always old people.
It's always old people.
It's always
totally.
Old people. Literally, I'm like, fuck's sakes. I'm going to forgive you because you're old. That's the only reason. Yeah.
I think for a lot of people that say things like that too, I think they're jealous. I think they wish that they had held their baby as much as they wanted to. I think sometimes it's a mirror and a reflection. Because, I feel like also postpartum is almost cyclical. Every generation has a different experience. Like my mom was told holding your baby too much will create bad habits. She put us in our room after we were born and just saw us the next morning. I mean, I don't know what was going on there.
What was happening? Tom's mum told me that in their house, their walls were so thick that they just didn't hear them. So you would put the baby down, go to bed, and you'd be like, well, I don't know.
Yeah. My mom said that I slept through the night at 1 month old. And I said, that's crazy. That never happened. And she said, well, yeah, I would just put you in and I would close the door and go to bed. And then I would wake up. And I said, that doesn't mean I slept through the night. That just means you didn't hear me crying for you. It was wild. Goodness. What were some of the things that you did specifically that changed between your first and your second postpartum?
I think it starts with the actual birth experience. So for me, giving birth at home, it was actually a free birth and just fully on my own terms. And then being at home, climbing back into bed, it felt like a family event for us. That then kind of set the tone. I picked her out of the water. I held her.
Wow.
Whereas with my first, the midwife caught her. Then they took her away straight away and did checks and everything. And then that evening, she had gotten sick. And then the next morning they said she's caught an infection, and then it kind of just spiraled, and then she had to go into NICU. And so we were separated, and I won't go into the details of that, but it was just so different being at home, taking baby, holding her and being like, oh my gosh, I get to hold her and keep her, and no one's touching her. No one's doing anything. It's all mine, and ours. That was just insane, and that definitely set the tone for sure. As well as preparing, I don't know, did you do much prep for your second time in terms of thinking what you wanted and getting help in place and cooking meals?
I think mostly what I did for the second time was just knowing that I wanted to do things differently. specifically for me, I was super triggered by naps with my first. Nobody warned me about that. I thought I would only care about overnight sleep. I had no idea naps would rule my life.
What do you mean you were triggered by naps?
By nap? Because my son was such a cat napper. So he would not sleep for longer than literally 28 minutes at a time during nap time. And so I thought something was wrong with him. There's something I'm doing wrong. And the second time around, I just thought, no, I'm going to do every single contact nap. I'm going to read my Kindle. I'm going to love nap time. I'm not going to care if he wakes up early. So that was my only prep, was basically saying I'm going to do everything differently and I'm going to do whatever I want. And I'm not going to give an F about what I quote unquote should be doing.
And what about postpartum rest? What did that look like for you in your second?
It looked like a lot of TV. That was postpartum rest for me, was a lot of quality time with me and the TV. I mean, the way I blew through Great British Bake Off, I watched every single season. That is a fantastic postpartum show if anybody needs a good postpartum show.
Oh my God, I love that.
I feel like a lot of the quote unquote postpartum advice these days too is, the first 40 days and stay in the bed for 5 days, next to the bed, near the bed, or whatever it is. I think that advice is amazing and beautiful, but I don't necessarily think that is accessible to everyone, especially in this day and age, or if it's your second or your third baby. I think we have to find a way to kind of meet women where they actually are in their lives and say, hey, your rest in postpartum might not be laying in bed and having meals brought to you, because that's not what your life is. But that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. Rest in postpartum could be ordering delivery and eating it on the couch as you drop some food onto your baby's head because they're doing chest sleeping on you. Like, that's fine too. That works too. So
I think you're right, because it also just takes the pressure off. If you're like, oh, sorry, is it day 4? Is it day 5? Like, that's not really instinctive. It's just kind of, again, looking to the outside for these rules. Why don't you listen to yourself? You might not need that much rest. Or you might need more.
Exactly. And I am not somebody who can nap myself. Anytime I try to nap, I wake up, it's very wild, but I wake up angry and depressed, and it's crazy. So with my first, sleep when the baby sleeps. That's what everybody tells you. So then I would get in my head of, oh my God, I'm not sleeping when the baby needs to sleep because I can't nap myself. And it was a whole spiral. So I tell people now, if you can't sleep when the baby sleeps, just do something restful. Just sit on the couch, look at your phone, read a book. Again, watch TV. If that's resting for you, you're not doing it wrong, because you're not tracking, oh, this is day 7. I'm supposed to be next to the bed by day 7. Like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's a bit ridiculous, really. We should just be saying, trust yourself and listen to your body if it needs rest. I definitely think it's worth making sure you have some support in place in case you do need rest and you've had a challenging birth. And it's helpful to have some idea of who can pop around with meals and support in case you need it.
Yeah, and I think for me personally with my first, I had a lot of trouble accepting help. I thought I was supposed to be able to do it on my own. I thought I was supposed to be able to handle everything. So when people offered help, I had a hard time accepting it. And with my second, I decided to, 1, take any help I could get, and 2, also redefine what help was, because I did not want somebody coming in and holding my baby so I could then go do something. That was not helpful at all. I wanted my baby in my arms and I wanted somebody to make me a sandwich. That was what I wanted. And so if somebody offered to come help with the baby, I would say, thank you so much. I would love that. I'm going to hold the baby on the couch, but if you could maybe help fold some laundry for me or make lunch for me, that would be fantastic. So I would say too, to any listener, feel free to be very vocal about what the help is that you want and need, and share that out loud. And if somebody says no, then that's not somebody that you want helping you anyways.
Yeah, and it might be that you actually use a postpartum doula instead of, family who might come with those expectations.
Totally.
And my tip is, instead of asking people for gifts for your baby shower or whatever you organize, you can have a fund where people can actually, put some money in, and you can put that to a postpartum doula who can literally just come in, blitz the house, bring some food.
Yes, that is such a good tip. Yeah. Postpartum doulas are amazing too because so many have different specialties or different things they focus on. So one might be a postpartum doula who does body work. So maybe they'll give you some massage. One might be a postpartum doula who specializes in meals or nutrition. So they'll come to your house and cook. It could just be somebody coming into your house and sitting next to you while you cry who isn't your family, like you said, because while we love our families, sometimes they're not who we want in our most vulnerable states. Yeah. So postpartum doula help can be huge. And again, it can fit whatever you need or what you want. But a postpartum doula, I think, is up there with having a lactation consultant if you're choosing to breastfeed come to your house and watch you breastfeed. That is huge too, because I don't know what it's like in the UK, but in the US, they'll have lactation consultants at the hospital if you have a baby in the hospital. But that goes out of your brain the second you leave the hospital. You need someone to come to your house, watch you breastfeed, where you're going to do your breastfeeding, and help you there. A lot of postpartum doulas too also are lactation specialists with it, which I think is really helpful. But yeah, I think if you can get that set up for yourself, that is such a gift.
Yeah, because a lot of people think breastfeeding will just, I 100% thought, this was for my first, that the baby will just suck on the nipple, not even take the whole lot in, and milk will come out, and that'll be it. There'll be no pain. Oh my goodness, I didn't know about engorgement, the sore nipples and everything. You're right. And also just the positions.
Oh, yeah.
How sore your body can feel when you're like this, like hunched over. So having someone look at you in that seat that you're going to breastfeed in, like you say, and say, actually, should we prop a pillow up here or at your back or something? And then you find your position, things start to flow a bit better.
Yeah. The way I saw breastfeeding between my two postpartums was also huge because I similarly thought, oh, well, breastfeeding is quote unquote natural, so it will come naturally to me. It's the baby will know what to do. I will know what to do. I was picturing myself, in a field of flowers and just my hair flowing and just freely nursing my baby. And then cut to me and I'm like wearing an adult diaper. I have a breastfeeding pillow strapped around me. I'm like doing compressions and having to hold. My son had a tongue tie. I had to do triple feeding for the first 2 weeks, which is when you feed, then pump, then give your baby whatever you pumped every 2 hours. It was horrible. I was always a just enougher. So I thought literally before I had my son, I said to my husband, we need to find room for the second freezer that we're going to need because I'm going to be collecting all of this milk. Because you see on Instagram too, all of these people who are clearly overproducers. You feel like you have to have a freezer full of milk or a pitcher full of milk in your fridge. And
what kind of feed do you have? Goodness. I don't see any of this.
Okay.
I just see vaginas and babies coming out of.
Honestly, I would rather that be my algorithm than the overproducers telling me that I need to get a second fridge for all of the milk that I should be producing. But I had to do so much, and I realized too, that is also still a beautiful breastfeeding journey. It's not just the people that are able to feed anywhere. It's still a successful journey if you have to supplement, if you have to use props, if it's not the greatest time of your life. That's still beautiful too. And I think reframing that also of just because something is hard doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It's just hard. Postpartum
is hard. Yeah.
It's hard.
Birth is hard. Motherhood is hard. Yeah.
It's all hard. And that doesn't mean it's wrong. That doesn't mean you haven't found the easier way to do it. That doesn't mean everybody else is having an easier time than you. First of all, most people on the internet that are saying they're having an easier time are probably lying. And second of all, again, everybody's journey is their own. And just because it feels hard doesn't mean that's a reflection on you or you're not meant to be doing this or you're doing it wrong. It's just hard.
I read a book by Lisa Marciano called Facing and Finding Yourself in Motherhood, which literally blew my mind and just made me feel like I've found my home.
Wow.
It was like, I can make meaning of all of this. And essentially she talks about how motherhood is an exceptionally hard thing, but also that it will help you to grow as a human being and as a woman, and to become like a better person if you let yourself, and if you don't just bypass the hard stuff, go into it. Like when you're lying on the floor bored with your baby and you're thinking these thoughts and maybe you're remembering your childhood or stuff's coming up for you, instead of busying yourself, go into, she's got all these analogies, go into that dark side and
Wow.
face your shadows. So she talks about how, I know for me as a mum, especially for the first time, rage was a really uncomfortable emotion that I had to face. I never thought I was an angry person. I never really experienced rage before having kids, whereas frequently I would be losing my shit.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, I'm horrible. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not a nice person. Not a nice person.
Yeah.
Then when I found her book, she was talking about the shadow work and how motherhood literally makes you face yourself, the darkest sides, everything. But then if you look at yourself and let it be the mirror, you will find so much out and you will grow as a person. And it's just that reframe that you're like, what you're saying, it is hard. You're not doing it bad. It's not wrong. This is motherhood and this is,
Yeah.
postpartum and the whole thing.
Yeah. People will say too, you lose yourself in postpartum and how that's a bad thing and how you can't find who you used to be. And to me, I thought, well, thank God. Like,
Bye.
Like, see you later. I'm ready to move on to the next version of me. I think about who I am now, and not to sound, self-centered, but
Go for it.
Okay, thank you. I am so impressed by who I am now. I am like so strong, and nothing can touch me. I don't care about what anybody else says or thinks. None of that means anything to me. I look back on things that would have upset me or things I used to think were important before I had kids. And now I'm like, none of that matters. That couldn't matter less. The version of me now is so strong and powerful getting through pregnancy and birth and postpartum that I'm like, I love me now.
I love me.
I love me. And I didn't for a while. I didn't feel that way 2 weeks postpartum. Let's be honest. Again, you're wearing adult diapers and you're crying at the drop of a hat. But now when I'm a little bit removed from it, I'm like, thank God I went through all of that, because I would never be who I am now if I hadn't. And again, I love who I am now.
I love that. Oh my gosh, that's just amazing. And I feel the exact same.
You literally can do anything now because you've seen all of the things you can do. Things that pre-baby you would have never thought you could handle the way that you handle. Things that pre-baby you would have shook you to your core that now you're like, that's a Tuesday morning. Like, what are you even talking about?
Yeah.
For all my London and city mums, I know just how important it is to find a buggy that actually fits your lifestyle. Something that you can get on the bus or squeeze onto the tube without stressing. And that's exactly why I am obsessed with the Bugaboo Dragonfly. It can fold down with one hand while using both the carry cot and seat, so no need to remove them. This is so helpful when you're holding the baby or juggling a bag, which you so often are, right? It is such a game changer if space is tight or you're always on the go and don't want to compromise on comfort. If you're looking for the perfect city pushchair, definitely check out the show notes or the Bugaboo website for more on the Bugaboo Dragonfly and the full range of incredible products made to move with you and your little one.
I wanted to talk about the hormonal dip that you feel when the milk comes in, because I had a conversation about this on my Instagram stories and I had so many DMs we couldn't keep up, just being like, what are you talking about? I've never heard of this. Tell us your experience of that. Did you cry? How does it manifest? And talk to us about the kind of hormones as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's called DMARE, dysphoric milk ejection reflex. And basically, when your milk lets down, there is a surge of hormones that, there's no other better way to say it, just make you feel anxious, sad, homesick. That was the one for me that was the biggest, is I would start feeding my baby, my milk would let down, and I would be sitting there so overwhelmed by feelings of homesickness. And I was in my home. So what was I homesick for? But I couldn't explain it to anyone. And I remember telling my lactation counselor, and she said, oh, you have DMARE. And it's very common, but it hits you so fast because, again, it's that surge of hormones and it stops after a couple of minutes. So usually the feelings that DMARE bring you lasts like 5 to 7 minutes within a nursing session, and then they stop. But it's really heavy, and it can feel kind of alarming because, again, 1 minute ago you weren't feeling that way, and then all of a sudden you are. And a lot of women stop breastfeeding because they don't like the way it feels, because they don't know that they're experiencing an actual hormonal experience. I found that when you can name something, it makes it a lot easier to deal with. So my second time around, I was like, okay, I'm assuming I'm going to have DMARE because I had it the first time. And being able to say to my husband, oh yeah, you know, whenever I start nursing, I have DMARE, so I feel really homesick and anxious and just makes me really sad for a little bit. Being able to say that, know that it ends. DMARE typically goes away after a couple of months. It's not something you have for most people your entire postpartum experience.
And a lot of women don't experience that, actually.
And a lot of women don't experience it, or they experience a small version of it, and they just think it's baby blues or it's something like that. And then on the flip side, there are women that experience it so much that it kind of scares them and they think something is wrong. And so they stop breastfeeding because, again, they don't like the way that it feels. If you experience that, like I said, obviously talk to your doctor, but it is something that should only be a short period of time within the actual feed itself and then within the larger breastfeeding journey. But that's one of those things that no one tells you about in advance. Until you're sitting around like, why am I crying thinking I want my mom in my childhood bedroom when I'm a grown woman? And it's DMARE.
When the initial milk letdown happens, which is on like between day 3 and day 5. Yeah, that. So with that experience, I remember just thinking about my mum and just suddenly realizing what she had gone through to have me, because you cannot know until you've done it yourself.
Yeah.
Because there's no way of knowing. You can only imagine. And just suddenly I had this like just moment of like, wow, mum, you did this, and now I know everything you went through. And then it was just like tears and tears and tears and tears and tears.
Yeah.
Like floods. The most I've ever cried probably in my life have been the day 3 milk letdown.
When you have your baby too, when your baby comes out and you deliver your placenta, that is the largest hormone crash that a human body will ever experience. Then your milk comes in 3 to 5 days later, and then that's a surge of hormones in the other direction. So you are just on like a wild hormone roller coaster strapped in that nobody asked if you wanted to be on it, and you cannot get off. And it's really difficult to manage. There really is not enough people talking about how also things like baby blues can hit 2 weeks after you have the baby. Postpartum depression can hit 4 months after you have the baby. Like, these are things that will happen also later. And, you know, your milk coming in a week later, that causes the hormone drop. It's so much.
It is quite challenging for women to know what is serious and when do I need to get help, and what is actually, this is hormonal. It's normal to cry. It's normal to feel really strange, you know.
Yeah. I found too, when I've talked to postpartum therapists, a lot of them will say, and obviously I'm not a therapist, so this is not medical information, but baby blues lasts only for like a couple of weeks at a time, and it doesn't stop you from living your life. Something like postpartum depression or anxiety doesn't lift, it doesn't get easier, and it can stop you from living your life. Like, it could make you not want to leave the house, or you could respond to things with compulsions if you have postpartum OCD. I never experienced either of those. I really just had baby blues. But to your point, baby blues can be really heavy too. Like, when I first had my son, I had thoughts of, I've made the biggest mistake in my life. I don't want to do this. I want to get in my car and drive away and never come back. Those are all, as scary as it sounds, fairly normal thoughts to have. But again, nobody is saying, hey, you might feel that way. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong. I didn't get in my car and drive away. And it got better once that initial kind of crash of hormones leveled out a little bit.
Gosh, and the guilt that accompanies an experience like that. Yeah. And you're like, is something wrong with me? I had the same thing where I thought, oh, have I made the right decision here? Oh my gosh. And it dawns on you that you have to look after this small, you know, dependable creature. And I found my way to Reddit and the regret motherhood forum, and I was like, oh shit, there's a whole nother world. I was like, late at night, I was like, this is real.
Yeah.
On incognito mode, I was like reading all these comments of people like, so it's so awful. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It was just a passing phase. And of course, you've just made this life change. We have 50,000 thoughts a day. Of course, it's likely that one of them is going to be questioning your big decision that you've made. Of course, I think that's really natural and healthy.
I think so too. And I think the problem is it is natural and healthy. But again, nobody else is saying that they are having those thoughts. So you think there's something wrong with me. Everybody else is happy and loving this. I'm the only one that's feeling like I should have never done this. And I think if more people were honest about their experience and their thoughts, that would help so many other moms.
Another big thing, I was speaking about this yesterday on Instagram stories, is mums thinking that they're going to experience the rush of love when they meet their baby. But actually, sometimes it takes time. What was your experiences like with that? Did you feel the magical rush of love?
No, not at all.
No, okay.
No, definitely. Especially not with my first. I, loved him. In theory, of course, it's my baby. I would have done anything for him. But I always said, too, it's a stranger. I didn't know him. I'd never met him before. We're getting to know each other. He's screaming at me and crying all the time. He's making it feel like he doesn't like me much either. And I, again, was worried. Oh, my gosh. People will say during pregnancy, too. This always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. This might be a controversial opinion. But when people would post their pregnancy photos and say, oh, I love you so much already, and I've never even met you. In my head, pregnant, I'd be like, this is a stranger invading my body who's kicking me in the ribs. Like, again, yes, I love this baby, but I'm not sitting there like, I love you so much. I can't, none of that. I was not that person at all. And it definitely took some time, especially with my first, because I wasn't letting myself respond to him the way that I wanted to, because I thought I was doing everything wrong. I think that definitely kept us from connecting in that way. I also, when I had him, had to go on a magnesium drip for 24 hours after delivery because of high blood pressure. And I was so out of it. I was not allowed to hold him if my husband wasn't in the room because they thought I could drop him, or I don't know what it was. So it obviously very minor compared to other situations, but it just kind of, again, I felt disconnected in those first 24 hours. Our breastfeeding journey wasn't easy, so I felt disconnected. It definitely took me a long time, and that is very normal to not feel that initial rush of love, and you will get there.
So how long did it take roughly then in the end? And what was it that then made you feel?
Yeah, I think realizing that he wasn't giving me a hard time, he was having a hard time, like when he would cry, and really taking a step back and thinking, why am I putting expectations onto a baby who was just inside of my body a week before? I was thinking, you should be sleeping longer. You should be sleeping through the night. Breastfeeding should be easy. And I was putting all of that on my baby. And that is, I think, a normal thing to do. But when you think about it, that's crazy. Like, he didn't ask for any of that. And it was keeping me from connecting with him until I realized he was, a brand new being in this world. All he needs is to biologically and developmentally be next to me. That is what his tiny little baby brain is only thinking, is I have to be as close to this person as possible for safety and protection and to live. And realizing too, little babies are kind of like cavemen still in a way. Like that, their most basic instinct, that is what is driving them crying. That is what is driving them wanting to be close to you, and realizing that biologically, it is not correct to have your baby separated from you. There's a reason why when you put your baby down in a crib at 2 days old, they freak out because their little caveman brains are like, an animal is going to come get me, like, get me back to you. And realizing all of that is normal. It is my responsibility and job to respond, and I want to respond. That helped. So I don't know that I could tell you an exact timeline of when that kind of rush of love and feelings came. I think once I got out of my own way, it was a lot easier.
Yeah. I mean, with my second, I didn't even make the decision to co-sleep, but it was just that thing of listening to myself and then realizing, okay, hold on a minute, I'm putting her down. We bought the crib and everything because that was what we did for the first. and then put her down. She was crying. Tried to put her down again. And I thought, no, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Kept her close to me. No crying. Amazing sleep. Just unbelievable. I 100% attribute the fact that we were close together and she could feed without me waking up as well. She'd be feeding all night and I'd have no idea.
Yeah.
How amazing is that?
I never fully co-slept, but I had her in like a sidecar bassinet right next to me. And I similarly, my second postpartum, I never felt exhausted because I never fought in the middle of the night giving her what she needed to then get us both down to sleep right away. Like my number one priority with my second was how can both of us be asleep as fast as humanly possible. And that meant the second she made noise, I would feed her. I wouldn't try to do anything else. I would just immediately feed her and we would go right back to sleep. I would have her right next to me. And it was amazing. I remember too with my son, I wanted to do safe chest sleeping. And because again, I'm putting a 2-day-old baby in the bassinet next to me because that's what I'm thinking I'm supposed to be doing. He hates that. Duh. With my second, for the first 2 weeks, she didn't sleep anywhere even at night except for on my chest. And we had a great sleep. It was fantastic. It was so nice. Yeah. What I would give now also to have her sleep on my chest in the middle, I mean, I would give like my right arm, right? But I'm so glad looking back on it now that I can think I never passed up an opportunity to do that. The only flip side of that I would say is I know too, I've spoken to people who had similar postpartum experiences to me and to you with their first, and they say, I feel so guilty. I feel horrible that I didn't respond to my baby the way I wanted to, or I feel horrible I tried to sleep train my baby and it didn't work out. So I would also say, you know, to people that are feeling that way or feeling guilty, don't take that on. Like, you know, everything you did came from a good place of wanting to do your best and be the best you can be. And when you know better, you do better. When you know more and you know that you can make your own choices, then you can approach things differently the second time. But don't take that on.
Yeah, and there's absolutely no point of feeling guilty. It's only just a horrible feeling that resides within you. I spoke about this recently about mother's guilt, how with my first, I felt it acutely, I felt it regularly. I even said to myself, I'm not going to do my work, which my birth work, Instagram and everything, unless she's asleep, as that's how I'll know that I never took time away from her. Like, that's how psycho I was.
Wow,
I was like,
yeah.
oh gosh, I feel so guilty. Like, if I need to go on the laptop, so then eventually I was like, I'm only going to work when she sleeps, because then I know for sure I never, you know, and that's crazy. But it was always just, feeling lots of guilt about anything. Going to the gym, I'd be like working out whilst feeling guilty about it, and then eventually rushing home, realizing that I wasn't present for that thing I wanted to do anyway.
Yep.
Whereas the second time, I think the book also helped me explore where actually guilt comes from and how in most cases it's learned. We have learned from society to feel guilty as mothers. But then, of course, there is the kind of guilt that brings you back into alignment. If you're feeling like something's not quite right and you feel guilty, then that could show you actually what's right and what feels better. I think it's good to ask questions around, where is this guilt actually coming from?
Totally. I think that's such a good point. And I also think, too, it's such a fine line of, you know, people say, oh, you should get out of the house. You need to do things to fill your cup, like happy mom, happy baby. And that also might not be right for you. Maybe you don't want to leave your baby. Maybe you aren't comfortable, but you feel like you're being pushed into it because you see other people doing it or someone is telling you that you need to do it. It's okay if you want to stay at home with your baby for months on end. Like, that's great too. It really is all about knowing that you get to make the rules, you get to make the decisions, and it's whatever feels good to you. And I love that, of figure out, where is the guilt coming from?
I might be a city girl, but I also love escaping into nature and exploring with my gorgeous family. Fresh air and little adventures mean so much to me, and it's really important that my girls get to grow up with those experiences too. That's why it makes such a difference having a buggy that can keep up. The Bugaboo Fox 5 Renew is built for all terrains and is super comfy for baby, so you're not going to need to stress about every bump in the road. Plus, it's really easy to steer. Honestly, it's a buggy you can take anywhere, from city pavements to country walks, and it's now available in forest green with matching accessories. Guys, I am so obsessed. It is gorgeous. So, For nap time strolls, city commutes, or weekend adventures, Bugaboo has a pushchair designed to fit your life. Use the link in the show notes or head over to their website to find out more about the Bugaboo Fox 5 Renew and their whole range of incredible products. Thank you so much for tuning into the Pop That Mumma podcast, sponsored by Bugaboo.
And what about relationships? Do you mind me asking?
No, go for it.
How did having a baby and being in postpartum affect your relationship?
Yeah, I really made a very clear choice in my second postpartum to be vocal about everything I was thinking and feeling and experiencing. And that was the key. I did not expect my husband to read my mind. I did not expect him to know what I was experiencing or what it was like. I did not expect him to know how to help me. I was like, if I need help, I'm going to say it. And I'm not going to hold it against him for not knowing that he needs to help me. He's got other things going on. So once I realized that and I took all of those expectations off, when I used to date terrible people in my 20s, I remember somebody told me, expectations are premeditated resentments. And that stuck with me. And I applied that very strongly to my partner in my second postpartum, where I did not expect anything of him because I did not want to resent him. I would say, I'm hungry. I need you to make me a sandwich. Done. And he would make me a sandwich instead of sitting there thinking, why has he not asked me if I need a sandwich? I'm feeding the baby.
That is such good advice.
Yeah. Like
oh
I'm
my
feeding
gosh,
the baby.
so simple, but will affect everything.
Exactly. It's so simple, but so huge. And it took away any of this getting mad at him. And even with sleeping, like with our first, I thought, oh, well, I'm getting up in the middle of the night. He needs to be waking up too. Or, you know, that classic of, how can a man sleep through the baby crying when moms are up at any noise? I mean, I do wonder if like their ears are shaped differently, because that is a thing where they really can't sleep through anything. But with our second, I said, okay, I'm breastfeeding. I don't need you to get up in the middle of the night. You actually can do nothing for me in the middle of the night. And I'm just getting more upset by you being next to me, not doing anything when there's literally nothing you can be doing. So I had him sleep in a different room with our son. And I took over with the baby the whole night. And then in the morning, he would take the baby so I could sleep for a couple of hours. And that helped so much. I also really think you'll see on Instagram or on social media, people talking about how you're in the roommate phase when you have a baby, where you're not that connected or romantic, and how the roommate phase is bad and you should be prioritizing your relationship. I loved the roommate phase. I loved being in the roommate phase with my husband, because to me, it also showed he understood this is not the time for romance. And if he tried to have any romance, that would be like a punch to the face. And instead, it was, we are teammates. We're in this together. This is a very, very small window of our lives where we are focusing on one shared goal, which is survival. And that's all that matters. And, you know, yeah. And leaning into the roommate phase, embracing it, not feeling like, oh, we're supposed to be prioritizing one date night a week or our relationship's going to crumble. I'm like, if your relationship crumbles because you go 3 or 4 months or 3 or 4 years without that, and then you are still choosing each other every day, though, that's a stronger relationship to me. So I think, honestly, like, lean into the roommate phase if you can. Lean into the fact that you're just teammates. The romance and all of that will come later. And don't, again, have those unvoiced expectations. Say them. Say, get up and make me a sandwich, please. I love you, but go do this right now for me. I also did not expect him to understand what I was experiencing emotionally, because how do you explain something like DMIR to a man? Or to a partner who hasn't had a baby? It's impossible. That doesn't make any logical sense unless you've actually been within it. And it was so helpful.
Gosh, this is such good advice, by the way, because there's so many women who will be having all of these experiences and will think back to this podcast and go, okay, this is making sense. But
I hope so.
Or they might just forget about it.
Yeah, they're going to be like, I don't know what she's talking about, but sure.
But yeah, the expectation thing is so brilliant, because it's just something so small that is just going to, affect everything that you do with your postpartum. And I think for me, I definitely had thoughts like, oh, you need to do this, and why aren't you understanding what this feels like? And you just have these thoughts, and actually you just hearing you say that, I'm like, well, of course not. He's a man. He doesn't how could he know? How could he know?
Like, we love them, but sometimes they're also like a little, not all there.
Yeah. Or they're just a different species.
Totally.
Altogether.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, this has been brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us. You're a laugh per minute.
Thank you for having me.
Is there any final things you want to share for that woman who is listening, thinking, gosh, there's so much to take in. I'm so anxious. I'm scared.
Yeah.
What can you say that just helps her?
Yeah. Something that I was thinking about the other day that was huge for me was realizing the door is not locked. And what I mean by that is you don't have to continue to consume content on social media that's making you feel bad about yourself. Mute them or unfollow them. You don't have to do something that you think you should be doing if it doesn't feel right to you. Stop doing it. You are the one that is in control here. You don't have to keep doing things that aren't working for you just because you think they should be working for you. Like, the door is not locked. Change your experience. Do something different. All of life and being a mom is messy and hard. And spoiler alert, none of us know what we're doing. We are all making mistakes. We're just doing what feels right. I also think I like to tell people a key to enjoying motherhood and postpartum is to care less. And that might sound crazy, but we take everything so seriously and we make the smallest things into the biggest things. It's kind of like the improve the moment thing that we talked about at the beginning, where not every problem is some bigger issue that needs to be solved. Just care a little bit less. Have fun. I don't know if this is the same in the UK, but in the US, moms are obsessed with black and white cards and showing them to your baby from birth for brain development, because we're all trying to have the smartest baby. It's crazy. And it's like, why are you caring so much about the black and white cards you showed your baby instead of the tree outside your window? Have you shown your baby a tree before? Or are you just showing them these black and white cards that you think you should be showing your baby? Have a dance party in the kitchen. Find moments of fun. You're allowed to have fun. Being a good mom doesn't mean you took it the most seriously. It means you loved it as much as you could. You didn't like it at some moments. And you kept going.
I love that. Thank you so much, Caitlin. And where can people find you, and what sort of work are you doing at the moment?
Yeah. So if you want more of me, which if you've made it this far, thank you so much. But you can find me on Instagram at Wilder Beginnings. That is my Instagram page and community. I also have a podcast called You're So Right that I co-host with my friend Rachel, which is a lot of fun and not like this podcast where there's important, helpful advice and tips. It's really just kind of nonsense chat, but it's fun. So I would say you can find me on those two places, at Instagram on Wilder Beginnings and at my podcast, You're So Right.
Thank you so much, Caitlin.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really, and I would just like to say too, I followed you on Instagram on my personal account years when I was pregnant. When I got the email, I was like, I know who Poppy is. I know who Pop That Mumma is.
Didn't.
Yes, so this is very exciting for me.
Oh, wow. That's a nice ending.
Yeah.